Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege to have you all on board. On behalf of the First Housebound Foundation, I warmly welcome you to our monthly webinar. Tonight, we are gathered for a powerful and a timely conversation on identity, masculinity, and discovering the modern man. The theme for our webinar tonight is Who Am I? Of course, this is a question that cuts deep into our sense of purpose and our role in the society. Thank you for taking time to join us from different parts of the world. Please sit back, engage, and let us enjoy this evening of learning and transformation. We want to extend our special thanks to the leadership of the First Housebound Foundation, led by its founder and president, Mrs. Bernice Enang, for pioneering this important conversation that shape men, families, and communities. We also recognize all the participants, partners, and friends of the foundation. Your presence tonight is indeed important. Ladies and gentlemen, before I call upon Mrs. Bernice Enang to give us an opening remark, I would like to present her to us. Mrs. Bernice Enang is a wife, a mother, identity development counselor, a manhood development enthusiast, a soft skill trainer, a coach, and a speaker. She is the founder and president of the First Housebound Foundation, a platform dedicated to nurturing and building families and communities, and as well as responsible men and women. She is passionate about guiding individuals towards rediscovering their identity and fulfilling their purpose. So, ladies and gentlemen, right away, let us stay on board and we welcome our founder, Mrs. Bernice Enang. You have the floor.
Hello, everyone. I am excited to be here this evening because boys are meeting men, and the men will inspire boys through manhood awareness and appreciation to become the best version of themselves. One of my dreams is coming true. I am Bernice Enang Keshu, Beng for short, an identity development counselor, a soft skill trainer, and a life coach. I am the founder and president of the First Housebound Foundation, the convener of this event this evening. The best part of my life is being a dedicated wife to my husband Jim and a committed mother to our wonderful kids, because it has afforded me the opportunity to amass at least 23 years of experience turning boys into men who can stand out in their generation as in the real vision of what Christ wants for manhood in humanity. Growing alongside my sons has helped me realize that turning from a boy to a man needs a lot of effort. This explains why every time a young man negotiates one stage of manhood, every time a young boy negotiates one stage of manhood, I am excited. And so I have always described myself as a manhood development enthusiast. Growing up with a present, friendly, dedicated, strict but responsible father has shaped my opinion about men. Well, I see them as a gift to humanity. Under his mentorship, I quickly learned how to make the difference between good and bad behavior in men, a good and a bad man, and to quickly decipher a serious growth-enabling relationship over one that was manipulative, parasitic, or destroying. This explains why, when I found resilience, patience, love, and willingness in a man that I decided to that I decided to spend my life with as a husband. And as at today, I am happy because I feel that raising boys has not only been very challenging, but has given me the opportunity, myself and my husband, to invest ourselves in learning brand new things every day. Today we are able to go back on the times when we had to bathe babies, change diapers, help them through one transition over the other, keep late nights, work extra hours to support the family. My story may be very rosy, and there are so many other women out there who have a story like mine. But on the contrary, there are a number of people whose story can never portray trust for the male folk or comfort in the midst of the male folk. Well, for me, it was easy to be friendly with boys and to even catch them in their mischief. But today, I know that a number of ladies are not able to say the same thing that I am saying right now, simply because they have never had a beautiful experience in the midst of the males. Not because all men are bad or not because boys are bad, but because each person has to tell their story. Each person tells the story of what they have lived. Growing up, a family to me was a safe place. But in the last few years, I have realized that love and respect have walked out of the door. And the silent trend of empowering women has pushed suicidal rates for the men up to about 300%. We have many more men who are suicidal today simply because they are not able to cope with the realities of their time. As if that is not enough, we have men struggling with a lot of self-esteem issues. They are broken, and some of them are broken. Some of them are fighting traumas. And because of this, I asked myself a question. Families are taking a downward turn in terms of dysfunctionality. Is this what Scripture says about being a man? Because my own scripture and my own life reveals to me that a man, a boy who turns into a man and who turns into a father eventually is somebody who is responsible, who is a priest, and who makes the sacrifice to carry his family like the image that Christ lives. And so the First Housebound Foundation is here to balance the gap in empowerment between the male and the female folk. Why? Because we believe that if the men are taught what to do, how to behave, when to do what, and exactly how to express themselves, they will do better, and we will not need to accuse them of things that they don't know about. Because first and foremost, they are living with a lot of stress from the stereotypes that society puts on them. Within the framework of the First Housebound Foundation, we have something that we call the Boys to Gentlemen program. And within this Boys to Gentlemen program, we are trying to make sure that boys have the opportunity to meet with men of the first, second, and third generation, so that the experiences of these men can be handed down to these boys through interaction, and then build them into manhood with a lot of wisdom and with a lot of happiness. It is our wish that the boys can appreciate being masculine and then live out their masculinity without excuses. So this evening, it is my wish that we all be quiet and listen to our guest speaker, who is full of insight and full of wisdom. Thank you for your kind attention.
Mrs. Bernice, for that wonderful for setting the pace and reminding us what this whole concept of the First Housebound Foundation is. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very delighted to have you. If you are just joining, tonight we're having our monthly webinar, and it is going to be a special night. We will be looking at the topic, who am I? It's a very critical topic that invites us to reflect deeply on identity and masculinity, and how the marking of the modern man can shape and help us to be responsible men in today's leadership. Please, if you're just joining, kindly mute your mic. So right away, we are going to introduce our speaker for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I am talking of somebody who is an international, somebody who has graced the international platform, whose life is a living example of what it means to be. Ms. Bernice, can you please, Mrs. Bernice, can you mute your mic? Can you mute your mic? All right, thank you very much. Mrs. Bernice, please can you mute your mic? All right, thank you very much. So, as I was saying, our distinguished guest tonight is no other person than Mr. Eyong Enoh, a name that resonates in the world of football and beyond. As you may get to understand that he is a wonderful person who has lived a life career that spans over 2 decades and 4 continents. As the former vice captain of the Cameroon national team, he stood tall and on the world stage representing Cameroon at different competitions, notably in the FIFA World Cup in South Africa, the FIFA World Cup 2014 in Brazil. Beyond football, our speaker, Mr. Enoh, has reinvented himself as an entrepreneur, a mentor, and a thought leader. He is the CEO of 4B Baller and the author of the best-selling book, Become a Successful Pro Footballer. He's a consultant to international sport agencies, and he is here tonight to drill us on this very important topic. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker for tonight's program, Mr. Eyong Enoh. You can shout him out in chat and use the best emojis that you can to really welcome him. Mr. Eyong Enoh, you are welcome. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Richard, Prince Richard, as I see Richardson on your display. I also got to know that you're also my namesake. Your name is also Eyong. So it's amazing to have you introduce me this evening. I'm so delighted to be here. Thank you so much, Mrs. Enang, for this amazing initiative, for this great vision, this great platform that you are setting together. And it's such an honor to be here. I'm so glad. Just also to add to the introduction that Mr. Richard was presenting about me, I'm also a father. I'm married to my wife Bernadette, and I'm a dad of 5 amazing, lovely boys. I live in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, where I help my boys. 3 of them are into professional football. They are at the academy. first one is 18, second one is almost 17, third one is 15, the fourth one is 12, and the youngest one is 11. So aside being a mentor, being a coach, I'm not a part-time dad, I'm a full-time dad and a full-time husband. So just, great. Today, I'm just going to give a brief introduction of this whole concept, because the whole session today, we're already at 9:30 p.m. your time, it's 10:30 p.m. my time, so we're just gonna look at a few things that will set the foundation for what we're going to. I believe that we will have a couple of other webinars where we'll delve deeper into some of the other things. I want to believe that, from what Mrs. Enang told me, I want to believe that there are a couple of our boys, men who are here from the age of 9, if I'm not mistaken, right, probably to about 19. So I think that is the range. So I also want to be mindful that you're all in different phases of your life, and that which is reflecting to a 9-year-old may not be the same reality for a 17, 18, and a 19 years old. So just let me know if my volume and my voice is okay, so that I know if I'm increasing it or not. All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're okay, very okay.
Thank you. So I'm aware of that fact that I have a different range, a group of different young men, and I believe there should also be some parents who are here as well. And personally, this particular session is a great blessing to me, because I'm reminding myself of some foundational stuff, which I also teach my boys. Today is an introductory session for the whole theme, masculinity, the modern man, and I wanted to touch on that question: who am I? Who am I? One of my mentors that I got so much with of late, he's gone to be with the Lord. His name is Miles Monroe. Mm-hmm. And he teaches about 5 important life questions that every human being that is on earth, whether you're a man, you're a woman, you're a grandmother, every human being has to answer these 5 questions. And he says that this is the question that everybody wakes up every morning. The man that is living in the biggest mansion, the man that is living even under the bridge, begging for food, the person that is in the market chasing the bag, the person who is in school trying to understand the knowledge of life, everybody wakes up every day trying to answer these 5 questions.
So we are recording.
And if these 5 questions are not answered, it doesn't matter how much gold they give to you. It doesn't matter how much amount of money, properties, lands, and opportunities given to you. When these 5 questions are not answered in your life, then you would be like a wind that blows without direction. Now, the number 1 question is, who am I? And that's what we're dealing here today. Who am I? So I'll just give the 5 questions and I'll come back to this first one. Who am I? It's a question of identity. Second question is, where am I from? It's a question of your origin. What's your source? Where do you come from? The third question is, why am I here? It's a question of purpose. What is that specific reason for which you are alive? You were born in that family, in that nation. Why were you born to these parents? Why were you born a Cameroonian rather than a Nigerian? Why were you born in that village, be it in the northwest or in the southwest? What is that specific reason for which you were born to fulfill? The fourth question is, what am I to do? It's a question of your potential. Do you know the potential that you carry? Do you know the gifts and the abilities that you possess? And the fifth question is, where am I going to? Where am I going to? It's a question of destination. Now, it behooves that these 5 questions are also the 5 questions that every man has to answer. The modern day man must answer that question. These questions are foundational questions that it doesn't matter if it was in 2020, 2100, and even in our present day, every human being to live their full potential, every man to fulfill their full capacity, they must answer this question. And so this question is relevant today, tomorrow, and in generations to come, as it was relevant years back ago. But for today, we will narrow on the first question, which is, who am I? A question of identity. I've noticed that many a times when people are met and the question goes, who are you? Most people like to introduce themselves with their titles, with their position, with their qualifications, with their educational background. I'm Dr. So and so. I'm Professor so and so. I'm this. I'm that. I'm a lawyer. I'm a businessman. Well, and that is one of the reasons that it becomes sometimes difficult for men to be able to carry a sense of identity, because they think their identity is tied to what they do. They think their identity is tied to a profession. They think their identity is tied to a position. And so it escapes the real core question of, who am I as a man? What does it mean to be a man? Who are you as a man? Now, if you're right there, I don't know if you're 9 years, if you're 10 years, if you're 11, if you're 17, you should be able to write that question down for yourself today. By the time we are done in the next couple of minutes, because I'm just doing introduction and we're just going to touch on who am I want you to go back with this question on your mind. And if you already answered this question, I still want you to reflect on the question. The question of who am I is an intrinsic question that helps you to be self-aware, self-conscious, and it helps you to have an ability of rootedness in your own unique personality. And so I was checking what identity means in terms of the definition of identity. And I'll just give a basic Google definition of identity here. Identity refers to the qualities, the characteristics, and relationships that distinguish a person or thing from others, defining who or what they are. I'm going to take it again. Identity refers to the qualities, characteristics, and relationships that distinguish a person or thing from others, defining who or what they are. And someone will ask you, who are you? What are you going to say? Put aside your job. Put aside that you're going to school. I'm a student. Put aside that you're a mother. Put aside that you're a teacher. If someone asks you, who are you? What would you say? They're not asking about the role that you're carrying out in your family or in your community. They're just asking, who are you? What would be your answer? Identity is a revelation of your essence. What kind of person are you? And so, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that personally, I'm a man of faith. I'm a lover of Jesus. I believe in God. I believe in the Bible. I believe in the Word of God. But what I'm going to share with you has nothing to do with a religious connotation. What I'm going to share with you has nothing to do with whether you are a Christian or not a Christian. What I'm going to share with you is a universal understanding of the very essence, a universal question that every person has to ask. And that's what I'm going to use. One of the most prominent person that has ever lived. He's more popular than anyone. More books have been written about him than any other person. You cannot escape his existence. You cannot escape his message. You cannot escape his story. And I'm talking about no other person but the person of Jesus. And so I'm just going to quote a few Bible verses here just to paint the whole picture of identity. So I want you to know that your identity is first tied to who what and where you identify yourself with. Think about that. Your identity is first tied to who, what, and where you identify yourself with. In Genesis chapter 1, verse number 26, for those who read the Bible, if you're a young person grown up in a home where the Bible is, if you're not read it in the Bible yet, I want to encourage you, just go check it. It talks about how God said, let us make man in our own image and likeness. There you go. Let us make man. So we're talking about the first man that God was talking about. He said, let us make him in our own image and our own likeness. That's already giving you a picture, a connection to identity. Remember, identity is referred to the qualities, the characteristics, and the relationships that distinguish a person from others, defining who or what they are. It means everything about your identity comes from somewhere. The identity doesn't fall from the sky. The identity must come from somewhere. There has to be a connection. There has to be a source. There has to be an origin. There has to be somewhere where your sense of essence, your sense of person is derived from. Now look at this. In Mark chapter 8, verse 27 to 30, I'll probably read that. I'll try to make sure I read it quick. I want to be conscious of the time so we can have a brief moment of interaction. In Mark chapter 8, verse 27 to 30, Jesus asked a very pertinent question. Can you imagine? Jesus had a couple of disciples that were following him. They were living with him. They were eating together. They were sleeping around the same place. They followed him everywhere for years. Yet one day, he looked at them and asked them the question, who do men say that I am? That was the first question. A question of who are you? Now he was like, okay, I've been walking around with you people for years. Who do you say that I am? Or who do people say that I am? Well, it gave a lot of different answers. Mark chapter 8, verse 27 to 30. They say you are Isaiah. Some say you are Jeremiah. Some say you are Elias. Some say you are this. And then he turned it around and said, who do you say that I am? Now, we're talking about who am I? I bet you, maybe you've never asked the people around you as a man or as a boy. Or even if there's a lady here, probably you've never asked that question to anyone around you. Who do you say that I am? That's interesting. Who do you say that I am? Even as a grown-up man, maybe as a dad, probably you've never asked anybody that question. Or nobody has ever really asked you that question. Who are you? So this question is not a question that you can have a fixed answer when you were 20 years old. It's a question that you have to answer it progressively. It's a question that at every stage of your life, you must be able to reflect, who am I? You must take yourself back to that place because it is the very foundation of your very uniqueness. It's a very important foundation for how you're going to carry yourself around. It's an important foundation for how you will define yourself to people. Otherwise, people are going to define you. So one of the implications of our modern day today is that there's a lot of narrative about who a man is, other than what he's defining for himself. And so I want to focus again on this question Jesus asked the men that were around him. Who do you say that I am? Well, after a while, one of his disciples said, you are the Son of God. You are Jesus, the Son of God. And this is the answer that Jesus gave to him. He said, you know what, Peter, this answer that you did it to you, it is not flesh and blood that gave you the answer. Why? Because when the first man was ever formed, there was no other man there. When the first man was ever created, there was no other man there. That means Who you are is not defined by another person. It's defined by your origin. It's defined by your essence, your source. When Peter answered, Jesus said, "It is my Father who is in heaven who revealed this to you." So I want to plead with you, and I want to confirm with what Jesus said, that brothers, fathers, friends, sisters, mothers, the only one who can define who you are is your Father who is in heaven. He is the one that can define. Let me go back to that definition of identity. He's the only one who can define your qualities. He's the one that can define your characteristics. He's the one that can define your relationships. He's the one that can define the type of person you are, how different you are from other people. And he's the one who can define who really he has called you to be. If you would forget anything, don't want you to forget this. Your identity is defined by God. It's defined by your Maker. It's defined by your Father who is in heaven. That's the source and the origin of your identity. The first and important identity is in God. Without God, man is lost. Man's identity is confused. Any nation, any people that put God aside, they begin to get confused, the identity. Their identities start to get confused. They start to mix up. Check it. History has proven a nation, a people that rejects God, the first thing that they start to lose is their identity. Why? Because man's identity is originated from his Maker. It originates from God. And so we're talking about who am I as a man.
Okay,
then you must keep that to mind, that your source of identity, your identity is defined by Maker. Our true identity is revealed by our Creator. So if you're here as a young man, if you're here as a father, as a brother, as a husband, your true identity is defined by your Creator. That's your true identity, by your Creator. So I want to talk to you about your true identity and your functional identity. Your true identity and your functional identity. Your true identity is that essence, is the invisible but yet tangible person that you are, that is only expressed with time. But your functional identity is defined by one, your parents, is defined by your culture, is defined by the country you are born into, is defined by the genetics you carry, is defined by a lot of different environmental factors. So this is important foundation. Your true identity is defined by your Creator, but your functional identity is defined by your parents that brought you forth, the culture you were exposed to, the country that you can connect to, the genetics that you carry, and the different other factors. Now, the challenge that most men have that gets original identity is your foundation, but your functional identity is given to you for expression, for operation. So everyone that is connected to God has their identity tied to Him. But because God sends us into different families, into different tribes, into different cities, into different nations, we have a functional identity, an operational identity through those different societal settings.
Try to see if you can do screenshot.
So this is the foundation that I want to lay. And I want to quickly share my story with some people that are here, young men, different ages. As a young man growing up in Cameroon, I grew up in a very stable home. My dad was there, my mom was there. Not a very religious family. And I had very little knowledge about God. But I had the connection of my functional identity. I knew that I was from Bayangi village. I knew that I was Bayangi, so that's for sure. I also knew that my dad was a custom officer. He was a man who loved studies. He loves books, so he wanted us to be very educated. So, when it comes to some level of identity, education is part of it. The Bayangi culture is part of it. My mom is also from Manu. So there was a cultural identity that I was growing up. And there are a lot of things that I identify with Bayangi people, their culture and all of that. And that's all I knew. I had no clue about my original identity. I had no clue about my foundational identity. All I knew was the operational, the cultural, and the functional identity. Why? Because the functional identity limits me. It makes me feel like I'm just a Bayangi man. I'm limited to the Bayangi. No, I wasn't limited to the Bayangi. And so something happened to me. Fast forward. Something happened to me. During my advanced level in the late 90s, I failed my advanced level. And it was a big surprise to everybody because I was one of the smartest in school. I had an amazing result in the ordinary level. So nobody expected me to fail the advanced level. And so my family thought that was because of football that was distracting me. And so they had to send me to Bamenda, to Progressive, to go and do my advanced level there. Now, that first 1 or 2 months that I was there, I heard the gospel of Jesus Christ. I heard the good news. I heard the gospel of Jesus, how he died for me, how he loved me, how he paid the price for me. That was the turning point. No man, I'm telling you, in this our time, in the 25th, in this our century, in this age, no man can walk in the fullness and boldness of his identity, especially the foundational one, until they reconnect with their Creator, until they reconcile with their Creator, because that's the original source, that's the origin of who they are. You see? So before then, who I was determined by my performance. If I did well in school, that validated who I was. If I was a footballer popular, that validated who I was. If I did something that my parents were proud, that validated who I was. That means if I didn't do well and all these other things that I wasn't impressing people, I was a failure, I was a nobody, and my identity was tied to all of those things. Until then, being a footballer, playing for people to see me, admire me, praise me, my identity was also tied to only those functional things. When I heard the gospel, and I completely received Jesus into my heart, that day I was reconciled back to God. And for the first time in my life, I was reconnected to my source. I regained my foundational identity. I regained my original identity. I was no more just the son of my father biologically from a manual. I was now the son of my father in heaven. I was now a child of God. I was now the apple of his eye. I was this young man that didn't need to do anything to be loved. I was this young man that did not do anything to qualify for his blessings, to qualify for his goodness. My identity was now tied to something bigger than just being Bayangi, just being born in Cameroon. My identity was tied to my Creator. As a young man, as a grown-up man, as a father, these things, the functional identity could fail you. The functional identity could go bad. The functional identity could go challenges. You're going to need to lean on your foundational identity to overcome, to override, to beat the storms and the challenges of life. Suicidal rate for men is at a high level, especially men that are not connected to their foundational identity. Because society gives them the impression that they are failing and they are no good based on their functional identity. I come to charge and I come to encourage every man, every young man, every boy, that your true identity is in God. And that should be the major foundation on which you stand, to build and to do everything. In fact, there's a Bible verse which says, if the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? If the foundation be affected, God sent Jesus to reconcile us back to himself. In that reconciliation, our identity was restored. As a man, your true identity is in God. Your true identity is in your Father. That is what I wanted to share in terms of our foundational reality. that experience, me coming to know the Lord, restored my foundational identity. I became so confident. I had a relationship with God. I could talk things with Him. He began to speak to me. I was not moved by what people said about me as a young man. I was moved by what my Father in heaven was saying about me. It doesn't matter how many insults you throw at me. It doesn't move me as long as my Father in heaven says, "My son, I'm happy with you. My son, you're doing well. My son, you go in this direction." I was bold. I was confident. I had a father who validated me. I had a father who approved of me. I had a father who gave me a clear sense of reason for living and direction. I had a father who was ready to sacrifice his only son just for me. How much love? Wow. Wow. So, we are almost to our time. I just wanted to share this foundational principle with you about functional and original and foundational identity. I believe that's something someone has taken home today, that your identity is not just functional or operational, it is also foundational. And your foundational identity is in God. There are many other things we're going to touch moving forward, but this "who are you" is a question that you must answer. And that "who are you" is a question of identity. And that identity is in God, your Father. This changed my life. It made me become a confident man. I felt so bad, so as a failure when I failed my advanced level. I feel like my family did not really validate me. Like my family did not love me anymore because I had failed. That my family saw me like someone who had disappointed them. No. But when my foundational identity was restored, my confidence was restored. The belief in who I was called to be was restored. And now I could go about fulfilling and living purpose. I moved from someone who was disappointed, someone who was feeling discouraged, to someone who was excited about life. I wanted to tell everybody how my foundation identity had been restored. And I was eager to tell everybody, you need to know this Jesus so that your foundational identity can be restored, so that you can become someone who is full of love and power and positivity, who can go out there and change and want to see people's life transformed. That foundational identity is what made me, when I get to the national team, I was not moved by people's success. I was not moved by people's money. I wasn't moved by in the natural, how people were big or not big. I was functional identity, how that works in any session. We'll talk a little bit on that and talk about some other aspects. But for today, this is where I wanted to stop. Just for the sake of effectiveness of this session, I want to suggest that if there's any questions someone has, try to keep it in line with this. We want to touch on other things that I'm not going to appreciate. We will not be able to get there.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to the interactive questions. If you have any questions, just let us know. You can unmute your mic and ask, or you drop it in the chat so that you can get the response from our speaker tonight. So let's keep the discussion going.